The math of micro is very simple and straightforward. The vast majority of what we do is solve market problems. In algebra, you're familiar with the Cartesian plane. We have coordinates x and y, and in this case we have two lines crossing, and the solution to this problem is the intersection point. This is the same thing that we do in economics. In economics, instead of x and y, we have price and quantity. Quantity is the x-axis, price is the y-axis. And again, the solution to this system is the intersection. Our two lines are demand and supply. So in this basic simple market, there's the buyers and the sellers. They come together, and the solution is the intersection point. That's the equilibrium point. So the solution to this problem is Q star and P star. And the way we find that is through simultaneous elimination of variables. In your typical economics problem, you'll be given a demand equation and a supply equation. So there's a simple linear setup for a demand and supply equation. The way we solve this, we set the two equations equal to each other. So here we have the demand equation equals the supply equation, and we solve by elimination of variables. The first step we're going to do is to eliminate the negative q's. We have minus 2q here. We're going to get rid of that by adding 2q to both sides. What we do to one side, we must do to the other. So we add 2q's to both sides. We now have 100 equals 20 plus 4q. Our next step is to get rid of the small number. We'll get rid of the 20. We do that by subtracting it away. So we're going to subtract 20 from both sides. So we subtract 20 from both sides. We now are left with 80 equals 4q. To isolate a single q, we simply divide by the coefficient. We divide by 4. So we divide by 4 and we get 20 equals q. We've solved for q. This very simple three-step process will work for a simple linear system like this each time. First we eliminate the negative q's, then we eliminate the smaller number, and then we eliminate the coefficient. So in 3 steps we can solve any of these basic simple problems. So we've now determined that Q star is 20. So Q star is 20. The next question is, what's P star? We can obtain this by substituting the value of Q, 20, into any line that passes through the equilibrium point, either supply or demand. So we substitute the 20 into either of those equations. So here's our demand equation from our initial given equations. We've substituted the 20 in for the Q and solved. 100 minus 2 times 20 is 40. 100 minus 40 is 60. And again, we get the same result if we substitute the 20 into the supply equation. 20 plus 2 times 20 is 40. 20 plus 40 is 60. Both work. So the Q is 20 and the P is 60. We've solved our equilibrium point for our simple market equations. Now that we have the P and the Q solved, we can also obtain the areas of certain basic economic areas. Price times quantity is total revenue. So the area of total revenue is height times base. It's a square or a box. So the area of a box is height times base. So we simply multiply the height times the base. So total revenue equals price times quantity. In this case, that's 60 times 20, or 1,200. Another basic concept in this area is consumer surplus. Consumer surplus is a triangle. The area of a triangle is height times base divided by 2. Now to find this point, we're going to need to know this point. This is a point I call PDO. The price when demand is at quantity 0. So PDO is given to us in the demand equation. So the price intercept, PDO, is given to us in the equation. It's the constant here, in this case 100. The consumer surplus area is a triangle. It ranges from PDO to P star. In this case, from 100 to 60. So the height of the triangle is 40. 100 minus 60. The base is 20. So consumer surplus is a triangle. The area of the triangle is the height times the base divided by 2. The height is PDO minus P star. The base is Q star. So in this case, we have 100 minus 60 times 20 divided by 2, which is 40 times 10, or 400. Another area that we solve for is producer surplus. That's the triangle above the demand equation and below P star. The area of a triangle is height times base divided by 2. The height of the triangle runs from P star to PSO. PSO is the starting point of the supply curve, the point where the price when the quantity for supply is 0. In this case, that's 20. And that can be seen in the supply equation that was given. So here's our initial supply equation. This is our intercept. So 20 is the starting point of the supply curve. It's the point I call P sub S sub 0. So producer surplus is a triangle. Its formula is P star minus PSO times Q star divided by 2. In this case, that's 60 minus 20 times 20 divided by 2, which is 40 times 10, or 400. You'll notice that in this case, we got the same answer as we did for consumer surplus. And the reason for that is because the slopes of the two lines are the same. Both are 2. When the slopes are the same, the areas of those two triangles, producer surplus and consumer surplus, will be the same. So we have 4 basic mathematical procedures we use generally in economics. We have simultaneous elimination of variables, which obtains Q star for us. We use the substitution technique to find P star, then areas of squares to determine total revenue, and then areas of triangles to determine spaces like consumer surplus and producer surplus. This is the vast majority of the mathematics that will be used in this course.